Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It's Tabletop Tuesday, where we gather around the table and spin a yarn about all the great games that have entertained us down through the years. This time, taking a trip into good old New England, where a thin, nervous man tells us tales of eldritch horrors out of time. No, this ain't Call of Cthulhu, but close. This week, suddenly recalled my cousin's suggestion of covering the wonderfully brutal and deadly board game Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror is intended to be a cooperative horror board game. However, more often than not, people tend to feed one another to various terrors at a time just to preserve their own skin or for a good laugh. It was designed by Richard Lanius and originally published back in 1987, one of the last good years of my beloved 80s. The game is set in the fictional town of Arkham, Massachusetts, within the Cthulhu mythos of H.P. Lovecraft and other writers. The game had three editions. The second edition being put out by Fantasy Flight Games, yes, them again, in 2005, and a third edition in 2018. The setting is 1926. Gates to other planes have begun opening throughout the town. Players put on their investigator hats and travel through the city. Encounters with mythos monsters is inevitable, and players have the option of fight or flight. In my experience, the flight option was the prevailing one early in the game. However, in visiting various locations throughout the town, players can acquire tools to boost them, wherein they can finally start taking on these rampaging monsters. Ultimately, the goal is to actually enter these eldritch gates and travel through them. This allows the option of closing the gate once you pass through. You see, for every gate that opens during the course of the game, it ticks ahead what's called the Doom track. Once the track advances to a certain level, it summons an Ancient One, a being of ridiculous power. In the original game, this was the end, and we all lost. However, for the second edition, the Ancient One was given stats and the option of fighting it with varying degrees of success. Arkham Horror is a unique board game in my experience. Based on an existing property, The Call of Cthulhu by Chaosium Games, the board game was proposed and developed in-house by Chaosium staff themselves. It really set a standard as the board game won Best Science Fiction or Fantasy Board Game in Origins in '87, so they were definitely doing something right. And not surprisingly, the original printing sold out. Chaosium announced several reprints, but none ever actually happened. The game was discontinued in '91. One wonders if Chaosium just hates money, but I digress. The online gaming company Skodos acquired the rights from Launius in 2004, then handed things over to Fantasy Flight Games. FFG, including Launius, made several cleanup style revisions to the game, tweaking rules here and there, such as adjusting the maps to more accurately follow the ones being put out by Chaosium at the time. They also streamlined the art to be more in tune with their Call of Cthulhu collectible card game. Remember when CCGs were all the rage? Yeah, even Cthulhu got in on that. Anyhow, the first edition sold out, history repeating itself. Thankfully, Fantasy Flight Games did like money, so they did another printing run that same year. In 2011, FFG released a faster paced, trimmed down version of the game called Elder Sign. The reason for this being is that a game of Arkham Horror can easily go between 2 and 4 hours. No, I'm not kidding. You sit down for this game, you commit. However, being one of the most entertaining and enjoyable board games I've ever played, I can attest from personal experience, you don't really feel those hours slip by. Elder Sign provided a faster alternative, getting folks in and out in about 90 minutes. So if you're pressed for time, you go for Elder Sign. Hey, I can rhyme. Yeah, maybe some other time. Something neat was that about a decade ago in 2016, Fantasy Flight Games hosted a celebration of the various Cthulhu iterations called Arkham Nights. During that celebration, the original designer Richard Launius returned to host a modified version of the game with multiple sessions held. That's really neat that they've managed to incorporate and celebrate the original guy behind the game. You can't say that for many other properties, I'll tell you that for free. There was also a video game adaptation released in 2021 called Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace. I know nothing about this and simply toss it out there in case folks want to dig into it, see if it's for them. The game itself consisted of various pieces, as most all board games do. Back in '87, this was the map, 99 event cards, 50 monster cards, a pair of 4-page rule sets, 8 investigator cards, 8 pawns, and markers. This version was black and white. Outer worlds were represented by spaces at the top of the map. Movement back then was determined by rolling d6s. Investigator cards consisted of the stats Fast Talk, Fight, Knowledge, and Sneak. It was a roll under system. There were two other stats, Sanity and Strength, and these changed throughout the game, usually represented by a paperclip at the side of your little investigator card. Gates opened up randomly. Monsters wandered all about, attacking anyone they saw. It was brutal. However, so long as you were in Arkham, you didn't die. Once you hit 0 sanity or strength, you're carted off to the sanitarium or the hospital, respectively, and popped back out, much like Grand Theft Auto. However, if either of these things happen while you're off world, you're dead. Also, if the Doom track hit 14, y'all were dead. It was a brutal game. It was tremendously fun. The 2005 version changed things dramatically. Now, instead of fixed values for attributes, you had a sliding scale. Move one up, and you had to move a corresponding one down. So you had some control over your investigator stats. Also, the roll under system seems to have been abandoned in favor of a roll higher system. That confused me greatly when researching this. Probably makes more sense in play, which is often the case. The rules definitely seem to have become much more robust in this later edition. Stats could be modified outside of equipment, you could sneak past monsters, but you had to succeed in a sanity check first. There's also an overall terror level to the town of Arkham itself, needing to be kept track of. And there's also weather effects that may hamper movement and such. Honestly, the latter versions sound much more like the RPG, with tons of aspects to keep track of that modify success or failure, or just general overall gameplay, which explains why they put out the Elder Sign version for sure. The 2005 version put out 8 expansions. Curse of the Dark Pharaoh was put out in 2006 and revised in 2011. This expansion brought a traveling Egyptian museum to Arkham, adding ancient Egyptian flavor to the core game. Dunwich Horror was released in 2006 and added a whole new board to be played alongside Arkham. Travel to and from Dunwich was via the train station. The expansion brought numerous new cards and such, along with a notable new monster, the Dunwich Horror. The King in Yellow was released in 2007, introducing the Herald antagonist along with a number of new cards. This expansion was notable for linking the Doom track with the Terror track. Kingsport Horror was released in 2008, introducing an additional board, like Dunwich Horror. It also introduced aquatic threats that could move to any other aquatic area on the various boards. Black Go to the Woods was revealed at Gen Con in 2008, another card-only expansion introducing another Herald, the element of corruption, and numerous other elements. Innsmouth Horror was released in May 2009, bringing another board, 16 new investigators, 8 new ancient ones, and 2 new heralds, as well as the usual monster card additions and such. The Lurker at the Threshold was released July 2010, introducing a new herald, over 100 location cards, new mythos, new gate cards, spells, etc. It also introduced the relationship mechanic, where the investigator to your left has some benefit to you. Finally, Miskatonic Horror was released in July 2011, adding over 450 new cards. Holy crap. These built upon the content of other expansions rather than adding an entirely new one. So, is it good? Yes, it's damn good. My personal experience and favorite is mainly the original '87 version, probably with some modifications I'm unaware of. My cousin still owns his copy, and it's one of the games that if it's on the table, nothing else, no food, no drink, etc., is on the table at the same time. I mean, it is irreplaceable, so I can't blame him. But that's the version we played back in the day and had an absolute blast playing. But it's worth noting, if that's what someone busts out, that's pretty much all you're doing for the entire play session. It takes a long time. And in order to play it efficiently, you really need experience. It is robust, it is deep, and the gameplay is nuanced. Be ye forewarned. But like I said, it's tremendously fun. The chaos of monsters roaming everywhere, you're not sure how much movement you're going to have this turn and so on. It's fun. It really is a great time. I actually own a bit of the latter version and have sat down and played it myself on a couple occasions. Yes, I play board games by myself. I have an entire segment dedicated to solo playing RPGs. You don't think I'd play board games by myself, too? Really? Folks, I grew up in the woods in the middle of nowhere. I learned to entertain myself. But the latter version struck me as a bloated mess. There are so many things to keep track of. It's not for novices, and it's not for the faint of heart. That being said, I can see the fun and enjoyment of the original version hiding back in there if I took the time to learn the system enough to operate efficiently. However, I just don't have that kind of time these days, and I never reached that point. So my personal favorite is the original, but that's a damn shame as that version is unobtainable. Unless, of course, someone were to download the map and cards and such and just print a copy themselves, which gives me a goal once we finally get a scanner printer here in the house. But I digress. In conclusion, I would rate this game very highly, all versions, but would take a moment to explain the time and experience commitment one needs to be able to enjoy the game. It's a big brain game for sure, so be aware of that. But don't let that deter you. It's tremendous fun. And that's all I got for you on this absolutely sweltering tabletop Tuesday. I am so sick of this damn heat. Oh my goodness, I'm ready to move to Antarctica. But thank you all for tuning in and giving me a moment of your time. I appreciate you. If I've educated or just entertained you, might I impose upon you for a like on your way out? Also, I put out videos multiple times a week, so feel free to subscribe, ring that bell icon to be notified when I put something out, which is often. That's all I have for today, so get out there, roll some dice, bust out a good board game, read a comic, watch some cartoons, put in a good movie, have some fun, make some memories, and drink your water, and as always, have a good one.